Four ways that foreigners misunderstand the Filipino woman. Women, Pinays, the Filipina, and this also relates to even other Filipinos who might have been born and raised in the diaspora. Why this is important, I just mentioned diaspora, because you might meet a Filipino woman, because we work everywhere. Filipinos are very talented, so you might just meet one. So this might be beneficial um, to you, this information. Aside from that, if you are Filipino and now you're in the diaspora, but you have a multi-generational Filipino family, this was going to be helpful to you because every time that we learn other people's culture, in fact, the one of the main influence in which I could speak very deeply about the nuances of the Filipino culture is because I've studied many other culture. And that would be the benefit for you. When you learn other cultures, you actually, interestingly, learn more about that culture, but also about yourself. So, let me begin. Okay, the stick around to the fourth, but the first one that foreigners misunderstand of Filipino women is that they're subservient. Okay, almost I'm going to use the subservient as someone who is the imagination is they're following behind the men. Okay, of course, in every culture, because this is maybe just a family or a personality. Influence, you could find that. So you could actually find Filipinas who are subservient. But in general, I want to share with you that the notion that Filipinas in general are subservient is not true. Here's some evidences, okay? We've had two female presidents. So when you think about, well, that's just, two female presidents. I mean, that would mean that males vote women into position. And how many countries could say the same? I mean, even in America, we haven't had a female president. So something as simple as that, we could be simplistic, but when you go down and really go down the rabbit hole, as far as how that is a manifestation of the psyche, then there's more to it. Another one in a survey recently in 2024 by Grant Thornton, which is a London-based company, they did the survey. And what they found was that 43% of those in the Philippines in senior management positions are Filipino women. There's also the World Economic Forum, in which they found over and over again that similar to what I just mentioned, there are many Filipino women in position in ranks, but also girls that are in school. So, second is that misunderstood that Filipino women who are very into service, whether serving children or their partner, are submissive. And it really depends on how you define submissive. But if you think service equals submissive, then you are wrong about the Filipino woman. One of the reasons is that when you do a dive in history, you would find, and I could understand the Western women and why they might perceive it that way, because for me, they have a more oppressive history. Okay, so just go down the rabbit hole and study your history. But I could speak about the pre-colonial women who were inhabitants of the islands, of the island. And what I could share with you is that the women are honored and respected. We have priestesses that are women, healers, the babaylans is what we call them. And of course, during the colonization era, especially of the Spaniards, it become more patriarchal. And so the dominance of the male figure became the standard. And so I want to tell you that because the Filipino culture really honors the feminine energy. I'm talking more about the energy. You could see even now how this survive, even though it's in the guise of Catholic language, such as in every city or town or barangay, you might hear this is the lady of Pampanga, right? The mother of this barrio. And for me, those are significant, a manifestation of the goddesses that used to be, and but for the safety and for the almost like the gatekeeping of the culture, they just became transformed into something that's more palatable. For the time, otherwise, you could just vanish. Those things are not allowed. So again, service does not equal being submissive. That's number two. Number three, and this is something often that Filipino uh, women in diaspora also may misunderstand Filipino women from the islands, is that they think that we apologize too much, and that might be a sign of maybe poor self-esteem or not being assertive enough. As that could be the case by case, because that could exist, and certainly some of our people could learn a thing or two of being more assertive for sure. But just because we apologize, it doesn't mean that we have poor self-esteem or we don't know how to assert ourselves. There's no direct translation of sorry. We might say pasensya na, which is really coming from more the Spanish lexicon, pasensya na, right? It's like bear with me. So a Filipina, out of being polite, might say, oh, sorry. And when you translate that in English, it just automatically sounds sorry because there's no in between in the American language. So I want to propose to you that that's not always the case. That sometimes the Filipinas just saying, oh, bear with me, or I'm sorry that's how you feel, but they will not actually, had they been given an option to have something happen or not, they probably might still proceed or not. That's possible. But to just think that they are apologizing and that they keep apologizing because they don't know how to take up space is something that is a case to case basis, and it's not always true. So we have reached the last one. By the way, I want to share with you. I have this course I want to share with you before I proceed and share the fourth one. If you are in an interracial relationship, um, even if both of you are self-identifies as Filipino, because it's really a cultural experience, I share with you the course called Love Mapping for Couples. Here you would learn, answer the question, how do I prefer to be loved? Because that's a confusion if you don't even know how you prefer to be loved, right? Next, you would discover your partnership, both you and your partner's love style. You will answer the question, how are we different and similar in our love style preferences? And then that's why I called it love mapping for couples. This is really, it's very action packed. It's you get prompts, you will learn about each other, but you were asked finally answered the question, how could we map out a plan so that I can love you based on your love style preference? So I'll share the link. It's called Love Mapping for Couples. If you just want to sit down and listen to a lecture, this is not for you. But if you want to really learn and sustain and engage with your partner, then check out the link. The fourth one that I want to share and how we could easily misunderstand the Filipina is usually when she says yes or no. Sometimes she might say yes, but there are many definitions around that. It might mean just not yet, or no. And the reason for that is that the English language is very linear. It's like yes or no, and there's really not a lot of in between. In fact, when you invite, many complain that Filipinos don't RSVP. They might say this, O titignan ko, I'll see. Or, um, excuse me, pag-iisipan ko, I'll think about it. O babalikan kita, I'll get back to you. Or maybe, or perhaps, there are many, siguro, maare. So, you can easily misunderstand a Filipina by the yes and no. And the way you could do that is to, I have a video I would link, is to also learn to study nonverbal cues. And of course, we always balance that. It's also not fair to just you be reading nonverbal cues. We also want to teach each other verbal cues so that we could communicate in ways that is beneficial to our relationship. But again, don't forget to check out the love mapping for couples. I hope that was helpful to you. I hope you're taking good care of yourself. This is Roanne Samuels, licensed psychotherapist. Ingat lagi. Bye now.